Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be making some easy garage shop cabinets. So I'm replacing my miter saw station since I got the new Delta Cruiser. If you're interested in that, I did an overview video. I'm going to include it up there and also in the description down below. So let's get started. Some of the things I'm going to cover in this video. So I'm going to make multiple videos over this series, and this is the first one, and it's just going to include building the cabinets, assembling them, making the face frame, and then making the top and edge banding and all that. So that's what this video is going to cover. In the future I'll do drawers and doors and all that, but for now we're just focused on this. So I did make some free plans on the Build Something website if you want to check those out. I'm going to include the links down there and also up here. They're free, and the idea is that if you can make some nice garage cabinets for your garage, then you can take those same ideas, same principles, and apply them to a kitchen build or a living room build or wherever you need cabinets. So these are just for the lowers, and they're all 24-inch size cabinets, so you can stack them up together in a row. You can do what I did here, which is put a miter saw in between. And so in this case I have two here and then one over here, and I'm just linking them together. So as far as this build goes, these two are pretty much done. I'm gonna go over to the third one, and I'm gonna show you some of the more intricate details and talk about some of the dimensions. Okay, so as you can see here, this cabinet here is unfinished. I haven't put the edge banding on the top, and I don't have a face frame, but I just wanted to talk about the overall dimensions. So the standard size for these base cabinets is 36 inches tall by 24 inches deep. That means that this plywood piece needs to be 34.5 inches tall, and the depth of this cut needs to be 23.25 because I'm going to be putting a 3/4 inch face frame. So with that said, our overall dimensions for our sides are 34.5 by 23.25. Now, what the face frame is going to do is it's going to cover all this exposed plywood. It's going to cover this bottom right here, and it's going to go down 1/2 inch to cover this. The way that I make my toe kicks, I make them all 4 inches tall by 3 inches deep, and that gives you plenty of space to put your feet under there if you're close to the counter. The next part I want to talk about and show you how to do is these grooves here that is going to accept this shelf. This is a good way to make these really square and really sturdy. So I do mine on my router table, but you can also do them with the handheld router. So I'm going to show you how to do it on the router table. And as you can see here, it gives you a perfect square joint here on both sides. So when you're assembling, it makes it a lot easier. And the only thing to be careful for is setting the bit to the correct height. Now that we're ready to go here, I'm going to talk about the dados. We're going to go do the dado, and then after that we're going to do the toe kick. Okay, so now we're here at the router table. I'm going to talk about some of the dimensions that I go with when I cut these dados. So I like to make mine 4 3/4 inch up from the bottom of the piece of plywood that you're going to be using for your sides. This is obviously not one of the sides. This is just a scrap piece of wood, but I just want to show you how I set it up. So we know that it's 4 3/4 inch, so I like to use a spacer block that's 4 3/4 inch to set the depth of my bit after I set the height of the bit. So I'm going to show you how I set up the bit, and we're going to go from there. Okay, before going forward, just make sure that you please unplug your router before you make any changes to the bit. That's very dangerous and you could cause an accident, so just unplug it. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that not all plywood is exactly 3/4 inch thick. In my case, the plywood that I'm using is 0.7 inches thick, so I had to get an undersized router bit set. So I got a cheap set on Amazon. It was like 15 bucks, and this one includes 3 different sizes, and the one that I use is a 23/32, which is just a little bit over 0.7. So I'll show you an example here. Once you cut the dado out, here's a little scrap piece. It fits perfectly, just enough wiggle room so that you can assemble, and it's not loose at all. So This is the bit set that I use, and then in order to set the height, I use the Kreg marking bars. So I just put my bar here, and then I raise and lower my bit in order to get to the height that I need. I do have the Kreg precision router lift. This thing is awesome. I highly recommend this one as well. So I'm gonna include the link to all these. These things are all awesome. This is what I use. I highly recommend them. Okay, so now we have the height of the bit set. We can set the distance of the bit away from the fence. So just loosen up one side of the fence, get it close to where you need it to be. Make sure that the bit is touching your piece and slide up your fence to it. Make sure it's nice and tight. Tighten down your fence. You're good to go. So now we have everything set. We can start running all our sides and see where we're at. So let's go ahead and do a test piece and then go from there. Okay, so make sure you're using some kind of push block and your eye protection, and just put nice steady pressure and go all the way through without stopping. So, looks like we are right on the line that we had drawn out. This thing is ready to go. Let's do a test piece. See how it fits. Look at that. It's perfect. Now we can run all our pieces and they're gonna be ready for assembly. So after we run all our pieces, we're gonna start doing our toe kicks. All right, so now that we've cut our dado, the next step is to cut out our toe kicks. So I made a little jig here that is gonna help me line up the cuts that I need to make. So what I've done is just I've marked up 4 inches up, and I've made this spacer block 3 inches, and then I put these 2 pieces at the end to hold it square against the cabinet piece. So I'll just take a pencil, mark off the lines, and then I'll come in with the square and just kind of square it up a little bit. And these are gonna help me on my jigsaw to get close to the cut lines, but you know, they don't have to be perfect. So this is what's gonna get cut out. Since I don't have a bandsaw, this is the best way to do it for me. So what I'll do, like I said, I'll cut out close with my jigsaw, and then I'll put this back on, I'll clamp it down in place, and with my trim router, I will follow these lines with the pattern bit, and it's gonna cut all the excess away. That's gonna give me 2 really clean square edges, and then I'm gonna have a rounded edge right here. So I'll just come in with the chisel and just go, you know, square it up. So let me show you guys how I do that, and I'll show you how I get my really clean toe kicks. Alright, so now I've clamped on the jig. As you can see, on this one I left it a little long just so you can see what's going to happen with the flush trim bit. This side's pretty close to the line. So yeah, you just clamp it on there, and then make sure you put you set your depth correctly. This thing is going to be flipped over so that the bearing is going to ride on this straight edge, these two. And yeah, like I said, I left this one long so you can see what happens, but basically all you do is just go at it on your router and you're done. Obviously if I had a bandsaw this would be way faster and a lot easier, but since I don't, it's the next best thing. Alright, so there you have it. You have your perfectly square toe kick. Now I know a lot of you guys are thinking, why do you even need to do this? Most of the toe kick is going to be covered anyways by this front piece. But the reason is, like, let's say that this is the last cabinet on a string of cabinets. This outer edge here, if you don't do it nice and square, it's gonna look bad. It might have some tear out. It might not be straight. So it's really important that you don't have to do this on every single one, but at least on the one that's on the end, to take the time and do something like this. So, like I said, a lot of you guys might have bandsaws, but if you don't, it's just another quick way of doing this. So hope it helps. Okay, so now that we have all our sides ready, we can start assembly. I start by taking my domino and making some mortises in my stretchers, and then I'm gonna go and make some mortises in my sides. You don't have to do this if you don't have a domino. It just makes it a little bit easier. And this is just to make sure everything aligns and fits together nicely. I will also make a couple of pocket holes in my stretchers and add a little bit of glue to the sides just to help hold everything together. And then I add a bead of glue down the dados and attach my shelf. And from there I can pretty much start putting the other side on and line everything up. So now that I have everything close to where I want it to be, I'll just take my parallel clamps and clamp it down just to make sure that it makes a good connection, and then I'll drive in some 1¼ inch pocket hole screws. And the last step is to drive some brad nails on the sides just to make sure that it holds up while it's drying, and check for squareness. Now that our cabinet carcasses are assembled, we can start making our face frames. So real quick overview on face frames. The face frames are typically made of at least 4 components. We have our stiles, which are the vertical pieces, and then we have our rails, which are the horizontal pieces. In my case, I like to make my stiles 1.5 inches wide, and I like to make my rails at least 2 inches wide on the tops and bottoms, and then if I have a middle piece, I'll make them 1.5 inches. So, as far as the overall dimensions that I need for this build, I need these stiles to be 30 3/4 inch long, and the overall dimension here is 18 inches. So I need this piece to be 15 inches because we have 18 inches minus 1.5 inches minus 1.5 inches. So we're left with 15 inches here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make all my cuts, get all these pieces ready, and then we're gonna assemble it, and we're gonna put this back on here. Just wanted to note that the way that I like to attach my face frames is I like to use dominoes. So I'm gonna take this off. It just makes it a little bit quicker and easier for me to assemble. But if you don't have a domino, you can just lay the cabinet down, put a few brad nails and some glue, and also you should probably put some pocket holes on the inside. That way when you're clamping it on, the face frame is nice and sturdy and doesn't move. So it's just the way I do it, it just makes it a little bit easier for me. Alright, so I just wanted to do a quick overview of where we're at. So I've cut out my rails and stiles, and I put some pocket holes in my rails. And to help me align them, I use my domino, but you don't have to do that, obviously. And all I'm going to do now is just put a little bit of glue in all the tenons, screw down the pieces together with the Kreg screws, and then this thing will be ready to apply to the cabinet. So for the top of the cabinet here, I use a 5-inch spacer, just a scrap piece of plywood, to represent the opening for my drawers. And then I'm gonna apply this one using the spacer. And put a little bit of glue, run my pocket holes, and then I'm just gonna take this and apply it directly to the cabinet carcass. We have our face frame on and we are ready to finish off this cabinet. So I wanted to talk about the top, how I made it. It's just 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood that I laminated together, and then I'm gonna finish it off with some of this pre-glued edge banding. So what this stuff does, you cut it to the strip that you need, and then you apply it using an iron. And what it does is it heats up the glue and then it sticks it to wherever you need it to go. So I figured it'd be a nice way to finish off these tops and give them a nice clean look. I'm gonna show you how I did that, so let's get started. So here are the two tools that I use to make these cuts. I use this end trimmer and this fast cap edge banding cutter, and this is what I use to cut these down to size. So put this on here. First, you want to go with one of these and give it a small trim, and then follow it along with the next one. So we have made the cabinets, we've attached the face frame, we've made our tops and edge banded the sides, and that's pretty much going to wrap up this part of the video. In the next part, I'm going to be using the Kreg precision track and stop system to make my fence here, and I've used it before. I really recommend it. It's really nice. That's what I'm going to be using in the next video, because I need to start making cuts for my doors and my drawers. So next video will be that, and then after that I'll be making drawers and all that. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, please subscribe. It really helps me out, guys, and stay tuned for the next videos.